much looking forward to including myself. Been waiting for this session for a long time. And today it's my honor to introduce our keynote speaker, Professor Thorsten Hennig-Thurau. Thank you very much for joining us. It's a true pleasure to have you here, especially for this particular symposium. So a bit of background, if I may, to introduce you. Professor Thorsten Hennig-Thurau holds the chair for marketing and medium research at the University of Münster's prestigious marketing center, and also serves as the academic director of the MBA marketing program. He's consistently ranked as one of the Germany's leading business scholars, and also he's been ranked as the top 100 most impactful marketing scholars globally by Stanford University. Professor Hennig-Thurau has published his work, in all the top journals, including Journal of Marketing and Academic Management journals, GEMS, Journal of Applied Psychology, and his work is mainly focused on the digitalization of the consequences of digitalization for businesses as well as consumers. And as we know, among all his publications, I think for presenters who are here today, the most familiar work is his contribution to the seminal work of electronic word of mouth. And only in this symposium, we have seen the paper being cited so many times. And all of this symposium, obviously, it's been cited 1,000 times by all the electronic word of mouth researchers around the world. So, and we're really grateful. We're really grateful that you're being here with us to share us, a particular symposium keynote address and on this particular topic, and to share your personal journey with us to say how electronic word of mouth has evolved, in the past, and also where we are heading to in the future. So it is a true pleasure to have you. And without further ado, now let's welcome Professor Thorsten Hennig-Thurau for his keynote speech for the symposium. Please,
okay.
Thank you.
This was the kindest, by far, the kindest introduction I've ever received. So thank you very much. I think I will definitely not be able to match that and meet the expectations, but I will try. Let me try. So this will be for most of you then a kind of demystification experience, because what I will show you is I will go back just some decades, I can say, and go how this paper, which you obviously, or most of you know today, how it came to life, how it developed. And for me, this was preparing this was actually going back to my own archives and just trying. I had to convert some files from software which is no longer supported by Microsoft because it's so old. And I used it as it was very interesting for me because I used it as a reason to see to try to understand what has changed. And a colleague of mine usually uses this phrase, to be able to manage the future, you need to know the past. And I think there is some truth in that. And but let me see if after my presentation you still agree or would agree with that idea. The one thing I can tell you is that word of mouth today is definitely what you are researching, and what we all are researching is definitely not the same as it was a long time ago when it all started. So, and that's interesting because the conceptual foundations they have changed, which of course raises the question: is the phenomenon still the same? So let me basically open the presentation. So it's just a very simple three-stage, three-phase presentation: yesterday, today, and tomorrow. The idea is I want to take you on a time trip back to when we came up with the idea of eWOM, of electronic word of mouth, and I will tell you that there was almost we had a different name for it, but it came up with that. So, and then I want to take today's perspective and tell you what I believe, looking back, what we have seen, what we have done right, and what we have not seen, what has happened, which we have really not thought would happen, have not anticipated. And then there's a quick glance at the end, where we'll try to do what is very, very difficult to see, what's happening. So for those of you who expected a meta-analysis, another meta-analysis on the topic, I have to say I will definitely disappoint you, because there is no meta-analysis. It's a personal journey. And I hope you will still take something out of this. If you have questions, please raise them. I try to use the Alt-Tab combination as often as possible, so I see you, and just let me know, because yeah, most questions, I think we have time. If I stay within time within the schedule, there will be time to discuss afterwards. But if you have any questions at the moment, right, just jump in and let me know. The whole journey I did started in the very late 1990s, so which is like 22 years ago now, where electronic word of mouth looked like this. So what you see here is a website that was exclusively dedicated to electronic word of mouth, to customer reviews. So it's called doyou.de, and there were some others which I would show you, which published, a business model was to publish customer reviews. They called themselves customer opinion websites. So that was the idea. And I see that Paul Ray, you're saying yes, you remember those things, and a lot of younger ones don't, because they are long gone. So I think doyou, for example, they left the market in 2008 or so. So that was their idea. Customers were incentivized they got some credit points or so, which they can then use or could then use to buy some products and all that. So that was the thing. So this was the market for these customer opinion websites at that point. So they were all there were like 3 in Germany, 1 the major market leader, 4 in Germany, 1 major market leader in the United States and globally. Opinions was their thing, and they were all, you see, they were all founded pretty much simultaneously. So by the very late 1999. So this was happening. You see, they were instantly successful. There was, of course, we know, a big demand for information about products from other customers, which today I think it's very difficult for younger people to understand that there was once a world where you just, if I want to know about the new OnePlus smartphone, nobody knows, nobody can help me, nobody really, except OnePlus, and they might be biased. So that's the idea. And so there was quite some traffic regarding these. And then there was this young man there back in the, that was a photo from 2000, and so he was saying at one point to his doctoral supervisor at that time, he said, one day, this man said, electronic word of mouth will be as relevant as the consumer reviews of Stiftung Warentest, which is the equivalent, the German equivalent to Consumer Reports, for example, in the United States. I don't know in the UK what is the equivalent to that.
That would be the Which Reports in the United Kingdom. Okay.
So, and my supervisor's response, she was on the board of the Stiftung Warentest at that time, but now look at her. Her reaction was, sure. So that was basically the situation. You know, young man, just go ahead. Those were, keep in mind, those were completely analog times. So nobody really believed in that. There was this fancy phenomenon taking place. People are writing about products on the internet. So she let me go ahead. She let me just, come on, just do your work and whatever you find interesting, do it. And she was also having a very good position, a relationship with the Deutsche Bahn, the main German rail company, the monopolist. And we did a survey. We used the Deutsche Bahn customers to basically ask to host a survey. They have millions of customers visiting the website at that time, and they even raffled out some Bahn cards, which is a loyalty card, which gives you 50% discounts. So that was a big thing. We dedicated this data collection to people's perspectives, people's thoughts, people's attitudes towards, and motivations, of course, towards electronic word of mouth. So this is what we collected at that time. So we had like 4,400 respondents, and then we had a lot of people who only read reviews, and then we had about 2,000, and that's the number. I checked that number, and it is the number. I was so happy to see it is actually the number that is in the paper. So the 2,063 who then among those who had written customer reviews on the internet. So, and what I was, look at these. I was so stunned, and I had to check that. So when you go back here, you see that the data collection took place. I have to see that over the holidays of 2000, and that means December 2000. My wife will never forget that, because like we had a massive server crash. And so basically the Christmas period then was the only thing. I was on the phone with this guy from Bremen, who was the only guy, whatever I knew at that time, who was able to host a survey. And so you will never forget that. That was in the winter, so in the December, and I checked that, and so just oops, no, that was fast. Let me just hold on. Yeah, so in January, just 2.5 weeks after that, I gave a presentation in front of all German marketing professors. I was younger than today. And so there were like 150, 160 marketing professors. And we call this like a socialization ritual in Germany. It's like all the seniors are sitting there, and then the young guys go on stage and say they present something, and then they're destroyed. And if you're lucky, you're not totally destroyed, but you eventually get up afterwards, and then you get a position somewhere sometimes. That was the old German academic system. So, and I gave this presentation where it's in German, customer articulations on the internet. And so the response I received was, what do you think? It was exactly that. Nobody said anything. So people were like, this is completely irrelevant. And why was it irrelevant? Very simple, because that was about the internet. The internet was, today we are living on the internet. We are doing everything on the internet. At that time, nobody did anything on the internet except searching for some information, whatever. That was the only thing. It was totally utilitarian and porn. That was everything. So that's the world on the internet at that time. That nothing else. And I gave this presentation, and it was a disaster. So really, it was nobody thought that could be of any. And my supervisor said, "That's what you did all the time." Oh, okay. Then she defended me, I have to say. But just I didn't give up, as you might know. So in March, I had the first very rough draft crafted, and this is Gianfranco Walsh, who was a long-time professor at Glasgow University. So he joined the project because he was basically staying in the office right opposite to mine, and we were the ones who had all the daily chats. And I said, Johnny, what do you think about this? And they said, yeah, that's it, and let's rock the world. And so that was Hanover University, and then two other guys joined 2 months later, because we thought there would be some advantage. Dwayne Gremler and Kevin Gwinner, which I knew at that time. I think I had only met them once or twice at a presentation before, one paper before, and but at that time there was no way like today where we can just have a regular video chat or something. It just didn't work. But they said, this is good. This is interesting. Yeah, let's try to do something. And so they joined. Then we had the debate where to send it. Where to. So we made progress with the research and all that. Where to send it, and we were thinking this is a consumer site. It's about motivations, and so we should consider a Journal of Consumer Research. And Kevin Gwinner said, Thorsten, I don't think there's no theory really. So, and this is too fresh. So let's not do it. It doesn't work there. And then we thought JCP. And then I don't know who came up with this idea. Okay, Journal of Interactive Marketing. That might be a nice one. That was about 1 year later. So we then got together 1 or 2 times or so. This is the only photo ever taken of the 4 of us. So you see this wonderful suit or jacket I'm wearing at that time, totally early 2000s. Not the nicest one from today's standpoint. And then we sent it to the Journal of Interactive Marketing, and Venki Schenker was the editor at that time, and he was very good, very, very constructive, very helpful. So this bunch of rookies sent him something. He saw something in there, and he came up with this comment, which I think is very insightful. He said, at that time we didn't have a real DV there, and he said, do you have something, the measure of the extent of participation, and then you can run regressions. And this will lead to new results and considerably strengthen your paper. And he was totally right. So that was so the good news for us was, yes, we had some measure of participation, and we used that. So, and then it came out, and so the story. So you just mentioned it. It just is one of the heavy cited ones. So my most cited paper. So this is the backstory then, and when I now start thinking about what has happened since then, let me ask the question: what did we do right, and what did we miss at that time in that paper? So the main message in terms of what we did right is we were convinced, and I can say I was convinced that this is something. This will be important, and I didn't the quote I gave you, that's a real one. That's from a real conversation we were having. And I believe that if you and everyone here in the audience should take that as an encouragement. If you have something, if you see something, if you observe something, if you note something in the world of consumption or marketing, and you feel intrigued by it, and you feel puzzled by it, and you tell it to friends and colleagues, not colleagues, friends, and ask them what do they think about it. And if not everyone says this is completely irrelevant, then there might be something. And you might have a very hard time studying it because it's much easier to do incremental work, but it is much more fun and much more rewarding, I can tell you, if you dive into something that you're really intrigued by, that you're really curious about. And that is for me personally, that is the greatest motivation. And that was always the motivation with this, to say, okay, there is something that didn't fit into the old world of marketing. It changed I didn't know exactly what is happening, and I tried to find out. And I think that's when I read the paper, I don't read it very often. But I think it is, you can sense it there. It is hidden behind all the formalities that we use in marketing research, but it is somewhere there. So take this, please, as an encouragement to follow your instincts when something excites you. I think that is something that is very important for me personally. Yeah. But there were some points which we actually missed, and I want to stress them because this is something that has changed. The world of electronic word of mouth has changed. We originally wanted to call it not eWOM, electronic word of mouth, but we wanted to call it KOP, which is customer articulations on platforms. So that was or on online platforms. I don't remember. I was kind of shocked when I back then when I saw that what we almost have missed that opportunity, because probably you would never have invited me if I would have called it KOP, because the thing is, KOP is gone. KOP is gone because the websites, the opinion platform sites, they are gone. So that brings me to this next slide, which is to this gentleman from 2007, an article, which is Jeff Bezos, of course. And we had no idea that a retailer or retail sites could be where eWOM would take place. We had no idea about that. But of course, you have to give us this. Amazon was the first. They actually. So when Bezos said, like, what is his main sentence here so it's like, years from now, this is probably today, when people look back at Amazon, I want them to say that we uplifted customer centricity across the entire business world. If we can do that, it will be really cool. So, and that is, of course, it has been extremely cool for him, but it has also been extremely cool for us because we benefited very much from the availability of electronic word of mouth on the internet. Of course, I'm not naive. I know about the problems that now come with postings with eWOM on Amazon and other sites, and I've seen that there in the program a number of presentations regarding the fake status of electronic word of mouth, but at that time we just didn't see it. So that it was a massive change. We never expected that. The second thing and that comes along with that was that it was KOP at that time, and now there is this huge plethora of electronic word of mouth formats. So we just had no idea about that. Today there is this So at that time it was Opinions, and then came Amazon. But electronic word of mouth is multimodal. So just think about YouTube, whatever, this wonderful United Breaks Guitars video, which I always play to my students and always enjoy it, because it's just wonderful music and a wonderful way to express criticism, to express electronic word of mouth. So we addressed that. We made up for our omission in our 2010 paper then, impact of, it was called new media. Guess that. It was called new media in 2010. We called it that way, on customer relationships. But what I find interesting, what I find important for the next step, for the future of research on electronic word of mouth particularly, is that there are so many types now of digital word of mouth. And it's not just that there are many types, but they fulfill different functions and they have different impacts on consumers. So you just can't go along and say, okay, so what we know from reviews at Amazon works the same way for articulations on Facebook and on TikTok, and probably in the future on other formats and other types. We did so we smuggled that idea into a 2015 paper in JAMS, which is the Twitter effect of electronic word of mouth. And so when you look at it's well hidden. Towards the end of the paper comes this most important part, which is this typology of the different types of digital word of mouth, which we have there. Yeah, so that is the one thing that I consider important. We also did a study in, I don't know when was that, a few years later, where we showed empirically for games that electronic word of mouth on platforms like Amazon fulfills a different function than social media word of mouth. I think that is something we all need to know. It gives us a lot of ideas, a lot of research ideas, what we have to find, what we have to study. And I think this is also, when you look at the meta-analyses which have been published in our leading journals, this is not really well addressed. They try to put it all into in this one label because of course, because the data comes mostly from heterogeneous sites and from the platforms. But it is a very dangerous thing to basically put them all in one basket. They are different eggs. And of course, finally, we also missed how big electronic word of mouth would become. And I say this in 2010 in this paper in Journal of Service Research, we developed something. We called this pinball marketing idea. So that the idea was, until digital came up, there was marketing was basically part of marketing was basically following this bowling logic. So you took some communication elements, some advertisement or whatever, some brand, and then you basically put it in the market and you hit as many customers with your TV ads or whatever communication means, linear communication means you use. And that is all gone. It is all today, it is all gone. We live in this, what we call pinball economy. We live in this pinball environment where today there is a lot of chaos, and that is what I only found out when I was preparing for this. So there is electronic word of mouth at the core of all this, because when you see here in this pinball, so this is the balls which are sped up, which are basically diverted, which are stopped or hit back. This is electronic word of mouth. This is all electronic word of mouth. So this is the main change of what happened. now electronic word of mouth is no longer just one additional source of information. It is something that makes and breaks companies. That is the big thing, and it's because it is at the core of this pinball marketing idea where chaos reigns. So where chaos is the for a marketer is the dominating element. Of course, we also see this pinball logic in ways in fields which we don't want to, where we don't want to see it, like the political arena and all that. So, but that's something I'm going to not address here. Of course, there is today also collective electronic word of mouth. The online, the social media firestorms, which we have, are nothing else than collective electronic word of mouth. One customer says, "Hey, they are cheating, they're betraying," and then a lot of others basically jump on and they built this firestorm together. So if you're interested in that, that was a IGRM paper I did in 2018, and which with Ann-Christine Kupfer and with Mrs. Hansen here. So, and this is me being so proud at the last physical marketing conference I attended so far. Yeah, so that's, but it will change. It will come back. Yes, so now if there is still time, I would like to take a few minutes. So I've taken you back to the past, and I would love to invite you on a very short trip towards the future. What I think would be the future, and you see I'm a movie guy, so I love watching movies and I like researching movies. So a lot of my data and investigation comes from that, and so also my chapter titles come from that. So what I just want to do, and this is going to be quick. This is the three main parties which are involved in the marketplace, so producers, platforms, and customers. We as customers. What do I consider as the main challenges? And I know in this symposium, in this special issue, and also in other research, there will be a lot of them will be addressed. So of course today, because of the Twitter effect, as we say, it is essential to offer high quality products. Quality is always a relative term, a relative concept, and it's in the head of the customer, but it is very, very difficult to be successful with bad product. That's one of the things we really owe electronic word of mouth. For companies, I think it is really important to understand, if you have a great product, how do I make happy customers? How do I stimulate electronic word of mouth by happy customers? So if I excite somebody, how do I make this person talk about this, share this excitement? That is so the stimulation issue, and I've just want to show you this. You've seen that there's this addition, while remaining ethical, and because this leads us into a gray area. Where we have on the left-hand side, now this was coming from an Amazon purchase I had. So share your happiness with other customers on Amazon if you're happy, and that I like that. That was very nice, and I think that's very adequate to do that. Yes, nice reminder. Thank you. I will do that. So then there was this on the other side was, okay, if you're not happy, they didn't say don't share it on Amazon, but they say, okay, please feel free to contact us via Amazon and at this Hotmail address. So our friendly customers, and I think this is obviously a little not treating these reactions the same way, but I think it's fair. So to do it this way, so I wouldn't consider this unethical. It's a management tool, but they're fine. But of course, it leads us to areas which you have talked about already. I think the outright bribing of customers by saying, okay, whatever you think of the product, you get money for writing an excitement 5-star review. And that is something that my son has actually shared with me. So he received one of those things, and this is something that threatens the whole credibility, the whole functionality of the ecosystem of electronic word of mouth, I think. And for companies, that is a major challenge. Yeah, to do that. And of course, if you don't do it because of ethical restrictions, ethical considerations, what do I do if my competitor does it? Which is a very challenging issue. And so my main comment here would be for producers, you have to develop, so deal with this, but also find a way, remain ethical, but also, given the plethora of different word of mouth, kinds of word of mouth, develop an electronic word of mouth dashboard. I've not seen that in the literature. I think that is a very, and I'm not working on it, but that is something I believe can be very interesting to see, because of the different functions that the different formats fulfill for customers and companies. It will be very interesting how to determine their respective value for different business functions, and then try to basically give companies guidance. Okay, so on what does it mean if this one flashes, this light flashes red while this doesn't, or this one lights green? Of course, when we talk about formats, this is what I foreshadowed before the presentation. We have moved. We've seen the migration from Facebook to Instagram to TikTok, and then the question is, what will be the next? And my guess is that VR will play a role, because it's that Facebook this is from Facebook Horizon, their platform, and it's essentially a huge social network. It's a place where we could meet, at least in terms of our avatars, and we can be there in 360 and actually touch, and actually we don't have to wear a mask, like with the Zoom, but in 360 and much closer. So that is something that needs to be accounted for when you develop dashboards. You have to see what will be not only what was there in the past, what is there today, but you have to anticipate where will people go. But because when you think about, you have this wonderful watch like I have. Oh, you can't see it. So anyway, so you have this watch of a very cheap Casio. So if you have that watch, and you wonder, why is it no longer selling? Why is it no longer selling? And you think you have monitored everything, but now there's this big debate on VR, and you don't cover it, you don't monitor it because you have never heard about VR. That could be a major challenge. Yeah, that was it. In terms of platform, that's, I already mentioned, fake electronic word of mouth. For me, when it comes to platforms, that is the biggest challenge. It is for Amazon and other platforms. Electronic word of mouth is one of the very few network economy competitive advantages. Otherwise, it's only economies of scale. But in this case, they have this advantage that they have this is actually a network economy, because the more you have, the more attractive you get. And you can't compete with that. So with the network effects, but obviously, I think that Amazon and all the others, and even Amazon, do not understand how valuable electronic word of mouth is for them, because it is one of those rare resources. So my recommendation for them would be, and for us as scholars would be, let's determine the true value of electronic word of mouth for platforms. Because if Amazon can't do it, we need to do it just to protect electronic word of mouth to work. Otherwise, I don't understand if they would see the true value of electronic word of mouth for customers, they would protect it more. They would do more. They would invest more in it to make it work, make it effective, make it informational. Yes. Finally, so my main challenge or the perspective, the future of eWOM for customers is we as scholars must help find customers to cut through the clutter. I think there's for customers, this is in general a big challenge, but now with all the spreading of the fake electronic word of mouth, how can we give consumers a way to identify what is real, what is valuable? So you know about the hype problem, the hype machine logic of Facebook and all the other social media, and that is something that drives this spreading of fake news and fake reviews. And I think for us, not just for economic terms, but also for keeping our societies functional, it is very important to understand that we can help customers and consumers and citizens to cut through this clutter. And I think we have a massive, very powerful tool at hand. We all have. It's called AI. It's called logistic regressions, actually, and all that. So there's, but hey, let's call it AI, and tell nobody else that it's actually just a set of cool statistical tools. And we need to make more out of this. We must use it and to help customers to and to keep society functional. For me, this is the final slide. For me, this is eWOM on the photo. So this is the journey of eWOM I see, and to sum it all up, eWOM is the Rocky of the digital era. It came up out of the streets of nowhere, yes, and it enthused us. It changed the world. It became eventually world champion. It became world champion, and then a lot of companies, including Jeff Bezos' company, forget about it, forget about how valuable it is, and they tried to tamper with it, and they ignored in it, and they were no longer taking care. So the fake reviews took over. Of course, like with every good franchise in the movies, the end is still open. And I think we're the ones that we can help eWOM to have an happy end. And that's I think what I would love to contribute. And I think the special issue will make a contribution to that. So that's basically it. And as I say, thank you for your time, and please spread the word. Only positive, negative comments go directly to me. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor Thorsten Hennig-Thurau. This is really impressive, very fascinating as well. I think we all have a lot of it's a lot of fruits of thoughts, and we're all processing that where you're talking. Now, I think this is the best time to ask questions to Professor Thorsten Hennig-Thurau, because I'm sure we all have a lot of questions, and I want to hear about his thoughts on the electronic word of mouth research. Anyway, give it a go. Feel free to raise your hand. We can pick it up from the audience. So.
Before you ask questions, so how do I stop the sharing of the screen with Teams?